Hey there everybody, it's Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and in this video we're going to go through all of the movies that I watched for the very first time in 2024. There are a lot of them, as you can see. It's going to scroll up for a while, but we're going to try and do the same thing that I did in my 43 books video. If you watched that one is uploaded. Where I'm just gonna tell you very basically like a sentence of the plot and what I rated it and if I would watch it again, yes or no. Some of these movies I have actually watched twice since seeing them for the first time, but some of these also I think were left over from 2023 because I was going through these and I think some of these I possibly have already reviewed or it's been a very long time since I have watched them. And so my reviews might not be the most accurate. Next year we might have to do like every 6 months do one of these because there were a lot on here that I was like, I don't even remember what I would rate that movie. But anyway, we're gonna get into it, and thank you all so much for being here. If you are new here, make sure you hit that red button and subscribe, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. All right, so starting off, we're gonna start from the bottom and then work our way up. Some of them are more recent, they're just in here kind of randomly, but we're just gonna go through it. So starting off, we're gonna start with Inception. This is a Christopher Nolan film, famous for Oppenheimer, the Dark Knight trilogy. Like, he's a very up-and-coming director at this point. Interstellar has done a lot of things, right? And this was my first time watching Inception. Inception also has a pretty stellar acting cast. We've got Tom Hardy, we have Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page prior to the transition, and so this whole movie is about building dreams so that way they can that's all I'm going to say. They build dreams for themselves, for other people, and they pull off different things within the dreams. And classic Christopher Nolan, this one has a pretty psychological twist to it at the end where audiences everywhere are wondering what really is the end of this film. So if you like psychological movies, this one is good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a thriller. You could say it's suspense, but there isn't a lot of like, when I think thriller, I think of like somebody trying to kill somebody else, and like there's a little bit of action, but not so much thriller. Overall, I rated this movie, normally when I do movie reviews, it's been a while, but normally I give them like a letter rating. And I would probably rate this one like a solid B. Would I watch it again? Probably. It might be for some people a movie that's hard to watch multiple times, but for me, I liked the cast and I liked the premise of it, and it was not as hard to follow as I thought it was going to be when I originally started watching it. So yeah, I'd probably give it a very solid B. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. It's one of the better ones. Like for Christopher Nolan, I've seen The Three Dark Knights, which I didn't love really any of those. I've seen Inception and I've seen Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer was very good, and then Inception is probably my second. But I haven't seen all of Christopher Nolan's movies. So still working on making my way through them all. But next we have Runaway Bride. This is sort of like a sequel to Pretty Woman. It has Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, but it is not a sequel. Like, it's just the same cast. And in this movie, Julia Roberts plays the runaway bride, and Richard Gere plays a reporter who goes and tries to investigate or do a newspaper article about the runaway bride, and it's a romantic comedy, so you can imagine what happens. My one thing about this movie is when you watch it, make sure you pay attention to the eggs. That's a very big part. Ooh. Okay, sorry, I had to make sure that my camera was still recording, because I lost it there for a second. But anyway, out of like on a scale of A to F, A being very good, fantastic, and F being dog water, this one I would probably give like a B minus. Like, it's cute, but do I have a lot of urge to watch it again? No. But the first time I watched it, I enjoyed it, and it kind of falls into that early 90s rom-com. And like, it's fine. Maybe I would even go like C or C plus, because it was just okay in my opinion. Like, I didn't love it. I think Pretty Woman is better. Next we have Uptown Girls, starring a very young Dakota Fanning. This very well may have been her first movie, and essentially the premise here is the typical, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, where young girl is struggling to make ends meet because she's trying to be a model or an actress or something of the like, and so she takes a nannying job and becomes Dakota Fanning's nanny, and then naturally, as most nanny comedies do, they end up forming this unbreakable bond, and that is a little bit of a spoiler, but it is a very, very cute movie. But similar with Runaway Bride, is it one that I'm going to go and watch over and over and over again? Probably not. Would I watch it again? Yes. So for that reason, I'm gonna say it gets like a C or a C plus. It just is very, like, when I want to watch a late 90s, early 2000s rom-com, I'm gonna watch 13 Going on 30. I'm not gonna watch Uptown Girls. And I wouldn't even say Uptown Girls is like a romantic comedy. It's more just like a coming of age or a nanny comedy. But still, like, if I want something that's nostalgic to me, I'm gonna watch 13 Going on 30. So yeah, I would give that one a C as well. But it's a cute movie. All right, now we're getting into some more recent ones. Jack Frost was the last new movie that we watched in 2024. And this movie gets a really bad reputation, and it was ranked, you know, Watch Mojo rated it as like one of, if not the worst Christmas movie of all time. And my husband and I both really enjoyed this. So what that means about us, I'm not sure, but we both really felt like this storyline was touching. It was endearing. It kind of has the same themes as a lot of your traditional Christmas movies. Like, neglectful dad gets his repercussions when he, you know, has to be reincarnated as the snowman. Or, you know, and think about all of these Christmas movies that have neglectful parents. Home Alone, I'm looking at you. The Christmas Shoes, which is next on the list, I'm looking at you. So, like, there are so many Christmas movies with this, like, dad who's working too much, or he's neglectful, or what isn't home for the holidays, and there's this big pressure and stigma to be home for the holidays, and then something happens to the dad. Well, in this one, something happens is he does reincarnate as a snowman, but he ends up forming a relationship with his son that we didn't really see in the beginning of the film. So, say what you will about this movie. I did not think it was that bad. And would I watch it again? Absolutely. I would absolutely watch this movie again. Now, some of the CGI and some of the effects are a little, because it was made in, like, you know, I think the 80s or maybe the 90s. It might have been like 1999 or something. But it's starring Michael Keaton from Beetlejuice fame. So there's that. And that reminds me, there's a movie on here that I did not put in here. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But anyway, Jack Frost. I gave it a B. I thought it was very good. I wouldn't say very good. Like, is it my favorite Christmas movie? No. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I would. On the same vein of Christmas movies, we have The Christmas Shoes starring Rob Lowe, and my family and I just kind of like to tease Rob Lowe. Like, we watch The Floor, and we're like, well, how did they get Rob Lowe? Why did they get Rob Lowe? Etc., etc. But anyway, in this movie, similar to Jack Frost, Rob Lowe plays a father who is working too much, and he pushes his wife and his daughter to, like, pretty much only do what he wants to do. Go to this big house, not do the choir, blah, 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 blah. And then this movie actually was based on a song that was written, a Christmas song. So I wanna buy these shoes. That one, everybody knows that song. The movie is sad. It is but it's also very heartwarming, and the change that Rob Lowe endures, and kind of his realization of the true meaning of Christmas, and he kind of puts aside his work and tries to really strive for that work-life balance by the end of the film, which is something that I think everybody in this millennial age bracket is struggling with, especially if you have kids. But the little boy in it is so sweet, and Kimberly Williams, who's now Kimberly Williams Paisley, is also in it, and the relationship that her character and her husband have is very, very sweet and enduring. My husband actually cried while watching this film. I teared up. I shed a couple of tears, but he gets very, very emotional watching movies centering around death, and that is a little bit of a spoiler, but if you've heard the song, you know that's kind of, you know, the movie is based on the song, so keep that in mind. But just like the feelings of community in this film, like there's just a lot of really good things about this movie. I would give this one a B as well. Like it does, if you like Hallmark Christmas movies, you definitely need to watch The Christmas Shoes because it definitely gives Lifetime movie, but a little bit better than a Lifetime movie, in my opinion. So I would give both of those Christmas installments a B, and I would definitely watch them again. The Christmas Shoes, maybe not so much because it is sad, but, yeah. Okay, moving on. Before we move on to the next one, I actually want to do, we're going to do something that's not on the screen because I actually forgot to put 2 movies in this little collection collage. And the first one is Inside Out 2. I did see Inside Out 2 in 2024 when it came out, and I saw it in the theater. I posted about it. Inside Out 2 was better than Inside Out number 1. I just am not a huge Inside Out fan, but I think the addition of the new emotions made it good, but also I think my favorite part of Inside Out 2 was the way that they illustrated what it looks like when an anxiety attack or a panic attack is happening. There were some flaws in the movie overall, which if anybody's interested, I can do a full review of the movie, but I think I want to start getting back to doing the full reviews of the movies, but they take a lot of time. But anyway, there were some flaws in Inside Out 2, like I didn't love the lack of dialogue that was happening. I wish the other emotions would have like modeled and kind of like talked through what was going on and how they were going to help, because I feel like for younger kids who would have seen this movie and are struggling maybe with anxiety or panic attacks, just watching it happen without the dialogue while you're in a regulated state, I don't know if the connections would have been made, but if they would have used dialogue to say, like have Joy or Sadness narrate what they were going to do and how they were going to help, that might have helped somebody in the audience make a connection to their own life and be able to then use that strategy to regulate. Because in the true moment of a panic attack, your brain is not going to automatically do what it is portrayed to do in the movie. And I think that's a big important piece that was missing. There also were a couple of possibly controversial leanings in the film. You know, at one point, Riley tries to steal something. She is hanging out with, you know, her girlfriends, and there are some comments that are made that are a little questionable, in terms of, like, are they trying to possibly make Riley have homosexual tendencies? It could be leaned that way. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening. I'm not saying that that's why I didn't like the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but as an adult watching it, you know, and somebody who's in education, I realize that that is a lot of the time what happens in these middle school friendships, and it does kind of manifest itself as a little bit of a crush sometimes. But to somebody who, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate of somebody who maybe is not a fan of Disney and Pixar, this could be why. So, or if you are somebody who's a little bit skeptical of Disney and Pixar's newer movies, then hearing this critique might dissuade you from watching this or watching it first before your kid, whatever. Anyway, so I liked Inside Out 2. What I, as a score, I would probably give it a B+. Like, definitely not my favorite Pixar movie, not even in the top tier of Pixar movies, but I did enjoy it more than the first one, so therefore I'm gonna give it a B, because I'm pretty sure I gave the first one, like, a C or a C-, because it was just, like, okay. And then the other movie that is not in our, screen grab here is Beetlejuice, which I actually saw in theaters as well. And I remember after watching the movie, people were asking me, oh, what'd you give it? And out of a 10, I gave it a 4. I literally think if we were to equate that to a letter rating, it would probably be a C- or a D. But I will say that, I'm trying to get some better lighting. My lighting is a little off today. I will say that I am not a huge fan of the first Beetlejuice film. Because when I watched Beetlejuice for the first time, and I do have a full review of this, I think, in my channel. When I watched Beetlejuice for the first time, I was expecting it to be this, like, creepy, scary horror film, and it is a comedy. So I was very thrown off by the whole thing, by all of it. And are there some creepy, scary parts? Yes. But mostly because of the CGI and the special effects at that time. The movie was made in the 80s. So for the effects then versus what the effects are now, everything that is in that movie they would have done with CGI in today's day and age, but they tried to do it with prosthetics and, like, actual costumes and animatronics. So that does affect some of the creepy scariness. But when I saw Beetlejuice, I knew going in, okay, this is going to be a Halloween comedy movie, and it made the enjoyment of it a little bit better. However, Beetlejuice had way too many storylines going on. They needed to either focus on the Jenna Ortega and Winona Ryder storyline or focus on the Beetlejuice ex-wife storyline. It was the Jenna Ortega thing, then there was this whole Winona Ryder and her being a ghost whisperer thing, and then the whole, like, Winona Ryder's husband dying, and, like, or her dad, sorry, not her husband, her dad dying, like, Winona Ryder's dad, Catherine O'Hara's husband dying, and then there's a whole storyline with Catherine O'Hara, and, like, it was just way too much. There were too many people, and then Willem Dafoe was in it randomly and had, like, a completely separate storyline where he was hunting for Beetlejuice. It was like, there was just too much going on. It was like they had an idea for 5 different Beetlejuice movies, and they just decided to dump them all into one instead of just making each individual Beetlejuice movie. And Jenna Ortega really was only in it for the star power. I don't think she really added anything to the film. That's not to take away from her performance in the film, because I think Jenna Ortega is a phenomenal actress. However, it didn't do anything. Her storyline didn't propel the story along anymore. And if they were gonna go with that storyline and her meeting that ghost boy, then just go with that. Like, it was just too much. There was too much going on, too many storylines, and at the end of the movie, it was like, well, why was that even in there? Like, there were so many storylines that also didn't feel like they got a good conclusion because everything was kind of wrapped up so quickly. And so it was just too much. So overall, I gave it a 4 out of 10, which in my mind equates to, like, a D. But the first one, keep that in mind, the first one for me is only like a C to maybe a B- movie. I have watched it, I've now watched it twice, and it does get better the more times you watch it, Beetlejuice, but I don't really know if I have any interest to watch the second one again, I'm being honest. So those were 2 movies that I did not include in my screen grab here that I wanted to make sure that we put in this video because I did watch those videos in 2024. So now we're going to get back to the screen grab, and I apologize that you guys have had to look at this screen grab for the entire duration that I was talking about those other movies, but sorry about that. Okay, next one is Hillbilly Elegy. This one is also a very recent film. We just watched this one after the election, and it originally aired on Netflix. We do not have Netflix, but we were able to find a Blu-ray copy of it, which was kind of cool. And so we just bought it cheap and then watched it. But Glenn Close and Amy Adams are phenomenal in this film. Regardless of your political affiliations, regardless of what you think of of J.D. Vance, because this is a movie based on the memoir by J.D. Vance. Like, regardless of what, we're not talking about any of that. I'm looking at this just from a movie perspective. Amy Adams and Glenn Close do a phenomenal job at portraying this storyline. And I have not read the book, admittedly. It's on my list, because now that I've seen the movie, I want to read the book and see how they compare. But just looking at this from a truly movie appreciation standpoint, like, I'm not going to go into politics here, but this is a very humbling, very moving film, and truly explores the relationship between addicts and their family members. Growing up in Appalachia, like southeastern Ohio, and J.D. Vance grew up in, like, northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. It is, like, these are things that I might not have experienced, but I know somebody, or I had a student who experienced these things. So it's just, if you are not from this area, then you might not realize that these things are happening. However, I feel like a lot of the same things that he explains also happen in the big cities too, like where there's a lot of homeless people, things like that. So yeah, from a movie appreciation standpoint, again, we're not going into politics here. I would give this film a B. Like, I would watch this again. I would tell other people in my family, other people in my circle to watch this movie. We both, my husband and I both, really, really enjoyed it from an acting perspective, from a filming perspective, and from just a story perspective. I thought the plot was good. The development of the characters in the story was good. There were a couple plot holes, as there is with almost any movie, right? So I highly encourage you to watch this movie. And again, don't watch it just because you want to say that, oh, JD Vance is dumb and blah, blah, blah. Like, if you want to watch a good, interesting movie, I encourage you to watch it. That's what I'm saying. Moving on. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is the second, this is the second one, in the, is it Across the, yeah. So the first one was Into the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is Across the Spider-Verse. We get, I forget what her name is. It's not Madam Web. It's Miss, it's like, it's the Spider Girl, and she's like white and black. And we also get a little bit of a different villain perspective. We get some flashbacks in this one. A lot of the same great things from the first one are still present in this one. We have the same animation style. We have a lot of the same voice cast. But this one does leave you on a cliffhanger that was unexpected. And the villain, actually we have two villains in this one. And the villain is it's very similar to the villain in Incredibles 2. Like, it kind of is the same concept. But, the other thing is, this movie, Marvel really has been diving into, Marvel, Sony, they've been diving into this whole, theme of, like, variants and timelines, and, like, when something happens in a timeline, if you go back in time and disrupt it, then it's going to affect the rest of time moving forward. And they really play into that in this movie as well, because Miles Morales tries to go and he tries to go and, like, catch Mr. Spot, and so he ends up jumping back in time and forward in time, and he ends up having to correct errors that he made, and he also tries, so it's got a pretty complex plot line, but like I said, the same animation style. We kind of fluctuate from that 2D to like graphic novel imagery, storyboard imagery, so it's all done in 2D, but with some 3D effects, and then they jump back and forth between different mediums, which is pretty cool. And like I said, I am excited to watch the third one. I would also give this movie a B. Like, it was very solid. Now, granted, all of the movies that I've reviewed so far have kind of been at that B tier. We haven't really seen anything yet or come across a movie yet that reached into that A tier. Like, this movie I would watch again. This is like a movie that's going to be one of my new favorites, but they're all very solid movies. So if you have not yet watched any of these, maybe add it to your list. Okay, moving on. 9. This is a Tim Burton film. So it's not stop motion, but it is like just kind of that 3D computer animated, and it was, like, Tim Burton just associated on the film. He wasn't, it just said, like, from the mind of Tim Burton. I think he was the producer, but this movie is, kind of hard to explain. It's post-apocalyptic, dystopian, mixed with almost like WALL-E, where, like, there are these 9 little beings, like these 9 little, they're like beings, that were created to stop this machine, but then, like, their creator died, and so they're all, like, on their own, but then they all team up together. Like I said, it's kind of hard to explain. I honestly don't really know if I understood what was happening in the movie. Yeah, very sci-fi, very dystopian. I'm sure somebody watching this video is going to be losing their marbles because they probably love this movie. but I was just confused, and overall I give this one also a D. I'm not sure if I would watch it again. And I want to give a little just a little side note. I'm very I hardly ever give a movie an F. The movie only gets an F if I will never watch this movie again, and if I like, or if I could not watch the movie for whatever reason. Like if I started a movie and absolutely just did not like it, then it would get an F. So most everything is going to be in that D. I will go as low as a D minus for something that I watched all the way through and just did not like. So that's kind of we're really working on a scale of like D minus to A plus. Moving on, The Addams Family. And this is just a random movie poster. I was just getting these images all off Google Images, and so ignore that it's like in another language. The Addams Family, the 1991 one, so not the animated one. I do have full reviews of the animated series of movies if you're interested in those. But this one, so this year for Halloween, we tried to go through our media collection and watch movies in alphabetical order, and The Addams Family was the second one that we watched. This took us 2 times of watching it to get through. The humor was kind of slapstick in our opinion. We just aren't big fans of that kind of humor. So the humor was a little bit lost on us. It sticks to the classic Addams Family storyline, like all the characters are in it. So if you like the Addams Family, if you ever watched the TV show, you would probably like this movie. But it just didn't really land for us. I would give this one a D as well. I don't know if I would rush out and watch it again. Now maybe it would be like Beetlejuice, and if I watched it again, I would appreciate it more, but I think I fell asleep during it. We had to like stop and rewatch it another time. So, yeah, we're going to go with a D. The next one, moving up the row, is Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. This was the first movie that we watched on our like Halloween movie marathon that we tried to do, and this is a fantasy horror film, if you can imagine that. And it also is historically, like, it is historical fiction. So this film, one, is scary. There are several jump scares. And the vampires in this movie are the scariest vampires I have ever seen. And I've watched a lot of vampire stuff. Like, I've watched Twilight, I watched all the Vampire Diaries. I've watched a lot of vampire stuff. And these are the scariest vampires I've ever seen. Like, the amount of teeth is absurd. And this movie also has a pretty, like, surprising cast, which was unexpected. And honestly, this movie was a lot better than we expected it to be. Some of the CGI effects are not great, but overall, the premise of Abraham Lincoln being a vampire hunter as he's like running for president and doing the Emancipation Proclamation and all of these things that historically happened, the Civil War, and like the fact that in this movie they tried to essentially say that the Civil War, like, part of it was because there were vampires and they were trying to kill the vampires and like needing the silver and like the Underground Railroad. Like, there's so many historically accurate, historical events that they then, added some dramatizations to propel their story along. But we would watch this movie again. Like, this will be a one that we watch probably maybe every Halloween or something. It was, or maybe even every November, like in the election time when we're learning about presidents and stuff. Like, we both really, really liked it. I don't know if it gets like A tier for me because some of those CGI effects were definitely lackluster. It was almost too much. Like, it was too much CGI. And yeah, we would definitely watch this movie again, is my point. So I would give this one a B plus, if not an A minus. Yeah, I know that might be shocking because we had really low expectations going into this movie because we had heard that it was just kind of okay. And we both liked it. And my husband does not like he doesn't like very many movies to where he would watch them again, and this is one of them. Okay, next we have Am I Racist? This is the Matt Walsh satirical comedy movie. And you can see right there on the poster, it says a comedy to die crossed out DEI for. And we definitely were laughing during this movie. It is a comedy. It's a satirical comedy, but different people who watch this movie will laugh about it for different reasons. But note, like, it is a comedy. It says it right there. It's a comedy, and it's satire. And if you know anything about Matt Walsh, everything that he does is sarcastic. Like, his whole affect, everything he does is from a stance of satire. And so you have to go into it with that in mind. That being said, I gave it a B. I thought it was funny. We were laughing. This one and the next one that we're going to talk about, Reagan, we actually saw together back to back. So we went and saw Reagan, and then we saw Am I Racist? Because when we go to our local movie theater, that's what we do. We pick 2 movies. Each of us picks one, and then we go and we sit through it. And we've seen a lot of great movies that way, and we've also seen some not great movies that way. And so this one was the same thing. Like, we went in wanting to see Am I Racist? And then we ended up watching Reagan first, and ended up liking Reagan more than Am I Racist? So, was Am I Racist a fine movie? Sure, I gave it a B. It's funny, definitely funny. We were both cackling during it. But comparing those two, when you see them back to back, Reagan is a far and above standout movie over Am I Racist? So, looking at it from a individual standpoint, not comparing apples to oranges, it gets a B. But then when we talk about the next movie, Reagan, this movie would get an A for me. A rating. And I think my husband would agree. We did not expect to cry in this movie. And we both were crying. Like, tears streaming down, crying. Okay? And if you know anything about Ronald Reagan, you can probably guess why. But this is a biopic about President Ronald Reagan, his life as before he was a president, during his presidency, the time when he wasn't president, and then when he won presidency again, and then all of the other time in the movie is set at his private ranch, and him deciding that he wants to be president, his relationship with Nancy, like, all of it. I learned so much during this movie, not only about historical facts and relevant, like when the Berlin Wall came down and the Cold War and the nuclear war and all of those things. Like, I learned so much about all of that. Also a stellar cast in this film. John Vaught, obviously Dennis Quaid, and there are several others in this movie as well. Like, we loved it. We would definitely watch this one again. And like I said, this one gets an A for me. So now we've had 2 A movies, Reagan and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. What that says about the movies that were released in 2024, I'm not really sure. A lot of these movies, though, were not actually released in 2024, so keep that in mind. Okay, the next one on the list actually was a 2023 movie that just never made the cut for last year's video, but it's The Journey to Bethlehem, starring Milo Manheim from Zombies. This is a musical of the Christmas story and Jesus's birth in Bethlehem from when the angel Gabriel comes to meet Mary, even before that. So it's like how Mary and Joseph got together, the angel Gabriel coming, Mary getting pregnant, and then their journey to Bethlehem. The musical numbers are low-key fire in this movie. Like, low-key. I wanted the soundtrack so bad because they were super catchy. Overall, as a movie, it is incredibly cheesy and corny, but it almost is one of those ones that it's so incredibly cheesy and corny that you like it. Like, it's kind of cute, in a way. This did not do very well in the theaters. This did not do very well with critics, but it is like a cheesy, corny. Would I watch this again? Probably. I would watch this, like, with young kids, learning about the story to Bethlehem, and because I do think it, again, perpetrates the true meaning of Christmas, reminds Christians and religious people why we celebrate Christmas and what Christmas really is. And it also gives you a little history on what was happening in Israel and Jerusalem at that time. And, yeah, with King Herod and all of those things. So I would give this movie probably a C, but because of the music, I'm going to give it a C+, a little bit better, because I just thought the music was great, and I do really like the cheesy corniness of it. The other movie that we watched when we saw this one was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes from the Hunger Games, like the Hunger Games series. And I don't think I did a review of that one either, so we're gonna pop that one in here too. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Peter Dinklage is in it, Viola Davis is in it, and then I forget what the girl's name is, but she's like the up-and-coming girl who's gonna be playing Snow White in the live-action Snow White movie. I forget what her name is. Rachel Ziegler, I think. This movie was very long, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It is based on the book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Overall, so essentially, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to The Hunger Games. So there are a lot of Easter eggs throughout. But it's a prequel, and like how Snow came to be the game maker, how and like his journey. So Snow is very young in this film, and then it shows like all the things that he went through to become the game maker and why he made the games the way that he did. I remember watching it and just being like, it was okay. So for that, I'm going to say it gets a C for me. I definitely did not love it. There definitely were some slow parts. There were some parts that were kind of crazy in this, like, you know, but overall, it was very, very slow. It was a lot of singing for no reason, which I know it's the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I get it, but still, they could have had, like, one song. But Rachel Ziegler, I think, alone sang, like, 3 times in this movie. And I was just like, okay, this is too much. Like, this is just, it just kind of drug on for me. Okay, we're going to talk about the next two together, Mad Max Fury Road and Mad Max Furiosa. These are not my type of movies, okay? I do not like, action movies are my least favorite genre of film, okay? I am a romance, a drama, biopic. I can do adventure, but I don't like action. And these movies are 100% action. They're also very dystopian, which I don't love. So Mad Max Fury Road, I've actually now watched twice. Once all the way through, and then once I like caught it halfway through. I just don't like it. Like, I don't get it. My favorite part in the Mad Max Fury Road is the guy playing the electric guitar. I just think it's so random and bizarre that he lives through the whole thing. So then when we talk about Furiosa, Furiosa is supposed to be the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, and about how Furiosa is who she is, like how Charlize Theron became who she is in Mad Max Fury Road. I only watched half of this movie. I think I fell asleep, or I was just uninterested and I didn't watch it because I don't like the first one. I didn't like Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road is one of my husband's favorite movies. He loves it. He loves everything about it. And I just don't think I get it. It's just not for me. It's just not for me. So Mad Max Fury Road gets a D. I don't like it. And Mad Max Furiosa, I would probably have to say gets an F because I didn't finish it. And I had no interest in finishing it. So I apologize for that because but these are my honest reviews. These are honest reviews coming from an almost 30-year-old woman. And I do watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of diverse movies because my husband and I do not like the same movies. So when he and I agree on a movie, it is very rare. And those are the movies that we watch repeatedly when we both like something. But this is a movie that he will just put in and watch all the time, Mad Max. And I just don't get it. Like I said, it's just not for me. Just not for me. All right, moving on into things that are way more my speed. Starting with It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Now, we're not going to talk about in this video all of the drama that has surrounded this movie and its release. What we are going to talk about is the movie itself. I'm going to talk about the performances of the actor and actresses themselves. And I'm going to talk about the comparison to the book. So It Ends With Us is based on a adult novel. Make that clear. Adult novel by Colleen Hoover called It Ends With Us. Okay? It Ends With Us depicts the story of a young couple, where the female is physically and sexually abused or assaulted by her partner, husband. Okay? So it's a domestic abuse novel, romance novel. This novel alone has received lots of criticism over on Goodreads, 1 and 2 star ratings. This book is trash. This book is terrible. Why would anybody write this? Is she okay? Blah, blah, blah. If you read the book, Colleen puts a statement in the beginning about how I was trying to be sensitive while writing this, but she also puts a statement at the end that says she wrote this based on her own trauma and experiences slightly. Okay? So you can only write about something if you've experienced it yourself, or if you take the time to research and ask people who have been through it themselves. That's the true way to write something and make it be sensitive to others. The book was then made into a movie. The book also has a sequel. I have a whole review of both books in my YouTube channel, so make sure you go check those out. But the book then spawned a movie starring Blake Lively. This movie is not a romantic comedy. And for those of us who have read the book, we knew that going in. But this movie was marketed as this kind of lovey-dovey romance movie. And that's to no fault. Like, I don't know who's in charge of that. But people are kind of saying that was on Blake Lively. Some people are saying it was on Justin Baldoni. Again, we're not going to talk about that. But this movie, I say this to say that this movie is not a romantic comedy. And it is not a lovey-dovey, fluffy romance. This is a very dramatic, very poignant depiction of an abusive relationship. I would say in terms of the book, the directors did a good job bringing the book to life in a sensitive way, but also making sure that all of the major plot points of the book were addressed. Now, there were some small things that were missed, like the magnet, and there were some small, like other things like that. Her obsession with Ellen, different things. There were small things that were missed, but did it take away from the plot of the movie as a whole? No. As a movie, I would give this an A-. I felt it was very well done. I liked that it was true to the book, and it makes me hopeful for all of these book-to-movie adaptations that we're getting in 2025. I'm looking at you, The Housemaid, and Verity. Okay? So, the soundtrack of the movie was good, featuring Taylor Swift, of course. But also, I felt that Blake Lively's performance was good. I felt like Justin Baldoni's performance was good. I felt that their chemistry together was good. I felt that everything about this movie, other than maybe the subject matter, was good. I cried during this movie. Both of my friends, one who'd read the book, one who hadn't, also cried during this movie. My mom cried during this movie, and she also read the book. My dad, who has not read the book, doesn't know anything about it, also enjoyed the movie and said that it was well done. So keep that all in mind. Regardless of all the drama surrounding this film, it is a good movie and it was well done. So the actors and actresses and the whole crew deserve praise and appreciation for their work on this film because it was very well done. Okay, we're done talking about that one. We're moving on. Like I said, I gave that one an A. That one is an A for me. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again, and I'm going to look to own it, hopefully. Okay, we're going to talk about the next two together. Oh, sorry, my allergies. My Big Fat Greek Wedding number 2 and My Big Fat Greek Wedding number 3. My Big Fat Greek Wedding is your classic late 90s, early 2000s romantic comedy. I absolutely love John Corbett in these movies. He is just so, like, goofy and charming and silly. The first one is an iconic classic. Essentially, Nia, I think her name's Nia Vardalos, I think is how you say her name. She meets John Corbett, and she's Greek. He is not. And it's their two cultures coming together for this big fat Greek wedding. And it is a classic. It's iconic. There are so many one-liners from that movie, and that's a movie that I've watched, probably 50 times. The second one, same family, same cast, but now John Corbett and Nia Vardalos have a daughter. And the story is more about her, the daughter, going to prom, but it becomes a vow renewal for Nia Vardalos' parents. And I think in the movie, her name is Mina? I feel like it's something, Mina, something like that. But anyway, so it's the daughter going to her prom. Nat Wolff is in this movie also, or Alex Wolff, one of the two Wolff brothers is in the movie. I think it's Alex, the same one who's in Jumanji. And And then it also, like I said, becomes a vow renewal. But all the crazy family members are there. Luke, or John Corbett's parents are in it. And I think his name in the movie is Luke, if I'm recalling. Or, I don't remember. It might be. I don't know. I can't remember. So then, in the third one, overall, Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, I would probably give it like a B, to a B, probably a B. Yeah, it's cute, classic to the original. Should they have made a third one? The answer is no. The third one completely takes the daughter out of the question. The daughter is supposed to be studying abroad. So she's broken up with her boyfriend from number 2. And I think she makes a small